Now, I don't have the Greek text in front of me, but if you go to my video about glorification, and in particular the videos that I did on the Sunday school lesson that I taught on glorification, in Romans chapter 8, verses 28 to 30, where Paul the Apostle tells us that we were predestined by the work of God. Now, that word predestined has caused a lot of friction and a lot of controversy in the Christian church. So I do want to acknowledge that there is controversy and two basic perspectives. But I'm standing here on the eastern shores of the United States looking out over the Atlantic Ocean. And if you look to a certain point, you'll see what's called the horizon. And that's where the line of the water meets the sky. So I'll try to use my zoom and try to zoom out there a little bit for you. Okay, it's going to get blurry. That's because my camera is not of the highest quality. But you can see there's a line where the ocean meets the sky. Now, ordinarily we call that the horizon, and it's very noticeable when the sun is either rising or setting. Now, the Greek word that's used for predestine or predestinate is prohorizon. Horizon, coming from the noun horizon in New Testament Greek. Pro means before. Before horizon. In other words, before the limits were ever established. So we might say that the horizon is a limit. And our mind can only go to the horizon. Now, by what you see right now on this camera, you might say the water ends and the sky begins. But that's incorrect. The water continues. It doesn't meet the sky at all. So my mind can only go so far, out to the horizon. And of course, the horizon will vary by distance. So if I got in a boat right now and say I'm going to go out to that horizon, it'll still be another horizon. In other words, there's always a limit to our knowledge. And what the scriptures are saying, I believe, in Romans chapter 8 and in other verses, that things took place beyond the limits of your understanding. They took place beyond even, yes, the foundation of the world itself. The creation of the universe. And something took place out there beyond the horizon. Now, what was it? Well, God selected you. God selected me. Now, immediately there will be people that will say, but wait a minute, I selected him. And I'm going to affirm that. That is true. You did. So, what is predestination? Well, according to one view, predestination is that God foresaw that you would select him. And in his foreseeing that you selected him, that's the basis of predestination. The emphasis is on the individual and the individual's actions. the individual's responsibility. Now, the other view, the opposing view, is that God knew you before you were born. God had a relationship with you before your birth. Now, you might say, how can that be? Well, I don't know for sure, but it's certainly a very powerful thought that before you were born, God was intimate with you. Now, I'm not saying you existed before you were born. I'm not saying that at all. All right? So the basis of predestination is on foreknowledge. And by foreknowledge, this view means that God had an intimate relationship with you and with me. Such as in the Bible, it talks to us about Adam knew Eve. And the word know describes intimacy and personal relationship. So what are the two views? Okay, the first view is that the foreknowledge of God is that he foresaw the fact that you would accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. That on the basis of that, then you were predestined. Now, is that a valid view? I'm going to say yes. It's not my view. But dare anybody try to argue this, and dare anybody try to create dissension over it, shame on them. Shame on them. All right? So you get thrown into these two schools, a Calvinist or an Arminianist. And it's a terrible thing to put theological labels on people's heads. What I'm saying is God was active. How was he active? Well, I'll leave that one up to you. But nevertheless, God was active in eternity past. And that is how you came to salvation, because God was active and doing something so that you indeed might come to know him as Lord and Savior, as King, as Deliverer. So I'd like to acknowledge that predestination is a mystery, and that mystery needs to reside with God. And that even though I'm attempting to discuss the mystery and bring it before you, I want it to remain a mystery. For some, the emphasis is on the human responsibility and the human efforts. I chose Christ. For others, the emphasis on Christ chose me. Now, both are true. Both are true. Both are true. And to deny one is to create a non-biblical view. So I'm going to give you an illustration that I acquired when I was in seminary many years ago. And I was confused by all of this. And the illustration came from a visiting professor. And he gave the illustration of railroad tracks. You can see the right side and the left side, but you never see where the railroad tracks meet. And I had that experience once traveling by train to the state of California. And I was in the rear car, there was no caboose, and I could watch the tracks disappear behind me. Now, I never saw where those tracks met, in front of me or behind me. And it doesn't matter, because human responsibility is one side and God's sovereignty and God's action is the other. Both are true and both exist. So I hope this has been helpful to you, that indeed there was foreknowledge, as in Romans 8:29, and there was predestination, pro-horizon, or horizon. Before the horizon, something was taking place. So again, if you could imagine that your mind can only go out there to where the water meets the sky, and then leave it there, out there. That's the best thing to do with this whole subject of predestination. To God be the glory in this video. To God be the glory on my channel. To God be the glory in my life. And I'd like to thank you for watching this video coming to you from the shores of eastern United States. This concludes the video.